gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's September the 19th, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day presented by LifeWallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. And Matt, I'm still traveling back from Houston, believe it or not, this morning. I had a flight get canceled yesterday. So we're going to do this a little makeshift today. The news of the day is centered obviously around the Texas A&M game on Saturday night. So I just thought we would take a couple minutes here and talk about the game, share our thoughts on how the Hurricanes played, where they go from here. Let me start with the pregame, okay? Because it was one of the most bizarre pregame hours that I've ever seen in my entire career. And nothing was more incredible as when about 40, 50 horses come parading out of the tunnel and start walking across the Miami sideline. And then they stop and almost like on cue, they all start pissing and pooping and just totally trashing up the sideline. I took some video that I thought I would. You could see they're like literally pooping. Hey, I got one. Brought in the cavalry. And literally where that was where the Miami benches was going to be. It was like the most bizarre thing I've ever seen in my life. But they got it somewhat cleaned up in all honesty, and things marched onward. But some people would say it was a little bit of a foreshadow because Miami didn't win the game. But I don't see it that way, Matt. I know they didn't win, but I'm watching that game throughout the night, and maybe I'm crazy and I'm the first to be critical, but I was encouraged by what I saw out of Miami in that game last night. Your thoughts?
Yeah, people, I guess fans sort of treat it like they were expecting to see like Hamilton on Broadway, and they wound up being stuck with their kids watching The Lion King for the 8th time, It wasn't like that to me. To me, there were a lot of positives, especially just overall, I felt like Miami beat themselves. Whereas last year, you could say Alabama beat Miami. You could point to all these games where you say, oh, yeah, that team's better than Miami. They beat Miami. This game, I actually believe Miami had the better team. And, you could blame it on coaching, play calls, whatever fans can do whatever they, second guessing. That's what makes college football fun. You can second guess everything that you want to. But I think if Miami plays this game 100 times, Miami wins this game 65 times, which was surprising to me because, I didn't, I thought Miami had a chance to win. I didn't expect Miami to win. So the fact that I think they came away with the better team is, quite frankly, really good news. Really good news for Hurricanes fans, even though obviously people are upset they lost.
Well, they outgained Texas A&M 392 to 264. Okay, 264 yards of offense is all the defense gave up in that game. That is pretty good. And Miami put up 392, but they couldn't They were in the red zone 4 times. They couldn't get the ball in the end zone, and that obviously was a massive difference in the game. But a couple things: when you go on the road, especially in a game like that at night, 107,000 people breathing on top of you. I mean, there's a couple cardinal rules. One, penalties are a factor. You can't commit stupid penalties, and you can't turn the ball over. And obviously, the muff punt by Tyreek Stevenson was just deadly in that game. Yeah, you can argue if it was the biggest play of the game or not. It depends on your perspective. But it gave Texas A&M, because the defense could not respond to that sudden change and gave up a touchdown in 3 plays. It gave them a free 7 points. They only scored 17 the entire game. Another key play that maybe is a little lost that I thought was just critical was a third down. I believe it was early in the second quarter when Henry Parrish broke free and had an easy first down and probably would have run all the way down to at least the 5-yard line if he didn't cut back and score. And I mean, the ball bounced off him. He just flat misplayed it. And so I don't think they responded so great to well, actually, I shouldn't say that. In a lot of ways, they did respond great. But in those moments, I think the moment kind of caught up to them a little bit. I look at the 2 missed field goals by Andres Borregales as a similar type example. And no margin for error in that game Saturday night, Matt. So they end up losing it. And now they have to come back, and a lot of talk about going back to work. How easy do you think it is to shake off that game, though, and just get back to work?
This team's used to losing big games and having to get back to work. I mean, if they're not used to it by now, when are they going to be used to it? This is normal now, unfortunately, for Miami. It's not like they haven't been able to practice for the last 20 years on how to recover from a bad loss. It's not like this is the first time this has happened. Now it's a new coaching staff. And, I'm very curious. We're probably not going to find out that many details, but, I don't think Mario Cristobal is going to punish the team for this. How Manny Diaz had players running the steps at the home stadium because they lost a home game, crazy stuff like that. That doesn't really engender team spirit. When you do that, a good way to bring the team together is, to reward the effort and to praise the good things while pointing out the bad things, not only focusing on the negative like Matt Shodell would. You got to also say, hey, here's what you guys did right, and build some confidence and get that culture. When Mario was at Oregon, those players loved him and would run through a wall for him. I don't think there's been a Miami coach that I would say that about, including Larry Coker, but not predating Larry Coker. So you guys can do the math. But this might be the guy that they'll do that for. And if that's the case, then we're going to find out, fairly quickly. And look, he's only been here, 10 months. But we're going to find out very quickly, is this a team that gives up on the coaching staff like we've seen in the past against FIU, for instance? Or is this a team that is still taking coaching and still listening and just wants to get better? And my feeling is, of course, that's the case. This is a new staff. The players are still learning under it. Did I have some issues with the Josh Gaddis play calls? To some extent, yes. But, for instance, right, 3rd and 15 in the red zone. Tyler Van Dyke's your quarterback. It's early in the game. You're down 3-0. Fans would be quick to say, why would you run the ball? Why would you run the ball on 3rd and 15 in the red zone when you have Tyler Van Dyke and some decent receivers and tight ends? Try to throw the ball, down the field and maybe get a touchdown. The run by Jalen Knighton, for instance, did not work out. He gained 11 yards. But what fans see that. Fans see, he ran the ball on 3rd and 15 and they had to kick a field goal. He just gave up on the offense, even though Tyler Van Dyke's your quarterback. But if you look at that play closer, right, you'll see that Josh Gaddis recognized that the defense was almost playing a prevent. Okay. So what he did was he pulled the right guard, Justice Olesi, and he pulled Jalen Rivers from left guard. He handed the ball, to Jalen running left to right behind those 2 and 3 more blockers. So he had 5. Jalen had 5 blockers in front of him and only 5 defenders on that side of the field, with 2 of them 15 yards down the field when he got the ball. So he had a wave of blockers in front of him, and the play actually had a decent chance for success, except for the fact that Jalen Knighton still isn't great at blocking tackles, and one defender happened to dive and just hit his shoe, and Jalen fell down. If not for that, that's a touchdown. So, like, for fans who are quick to say, oh, Josh Gaddis is so conservative, blah, blah, blah. Like, if that play hit, which it could have, it actually had a decent chance of hitting, fans would be saying, wow, this is great. They're all happy. So there's little nuances to it. So for fans, look, I'm the first guy who's getting texts from his Michigan friends saying, ha, you're stuck with Josh Gaddis. We're scoring 50 points a game. Like, I got that text. And I'm sure many of you who have Michigan friends got the same text. But, behind the madness, maybe it'll work. Maybe
scored 70 opening day.
So. Yeah, I know. Maybe the receivers are that bad, and maybe the run game is that good, and maybe the offensive line is that good that this is you have to run this kind of offense. I mean, I talked to someone yesterday who is a former player who basically told me, I'm hearing your announcement, so it's throwing off my train of thought here. But he basically told me that, what he saw Miami do against Texas A&M's defense, a good SEC front 7, he said when they play smaller, weaker ACC defensive lines, you rush for that many yards and average 5.1 yards per play in that game. By the way, 1.7 yards in the red zone, which is not good, but 5.1 yards per play against that team using mostly the run. There's no ACC team other than maybe a Clemson that they can't do the same thing or better against. And I expect Josh Gaddis to continue. I know Miami fans aren't used to seeing this plodding, 12-play, 70-yard drives. That's not what they want. That's not what they want to see. It's maybe not great for receiver recruiting right now. But, it might win 9 or 10 games, So I don't know that we should criticize it. I don't know. I'm still giving this team and coaching staff this year the benefit of the doubt with an eye towards the future within 2 to 4 years where this can be, again, a 60-40 passing downfield offense with a great running game behind it that can compete for national championship.
All right, so as the week goes on, we'll be looking at all these different things. We won't try to cover them all on the show, but the one thing I think we have to look at is Tyler Van Dyke, and he is not having the same success he had a year ago, and a lot of people have different theories why. And my theory is very simple. He does not have the same receivers to throw to that he had a year ago. There's no Rambo, there's no Harley, and that's a big deal. Okay, those were his 2 leading guys. They were reliable. They caught the football. They got open. They gained separation from defensive backs. This isn't happening this year with the guys that are on the field. So he is having to try to throw into way tighter windows. I think he's overthrowing at times. He's been, at least in the game on Saturday night, there were times where he was under pressure and he was taking hits. But he has to be a little bit frustrated that success is not coming easy like it did in the last 6 games of last year. The other thing that I wonder about Matt is he's a whole, this is a whole different set of circumstances for him this year than it was last year. He's got agents now. He's got all kinds of NIL deals. He's filming commercials. No, man, listen, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying it's a possibility that it all could be a little much. I mean, you go into a season thinking this might be my last year. I might go into the NFL draft. Now you're going out on the field and playing games. You are putting pressure on yourself to perform. And it looks to me like, and I'm not saying this is why, I'm throwing it out as a possibility. Maybe he's trying too hard. There's times where he's overthrowing it to me. That pass to Brashard Smith at the end of the game. Yes, I know it hit him in the hands. He should have caught the ball. That was thrown pretty hard, man. I mean, he really fired that thing there. And listen, I'm not making excuses for Brashard. If you're a receiver, ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it. I'm just trying to theorize why maybe what we're seeing right now is not the same as what we were seeing a year ago. But that's one subplot, Matt. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but all in all, like, I felt like this program's making progress. They competed very hard. They were very physical. That degree of physicality will win every game in the Coastal, in my opinion. I don't see those other teams. If Miami comes to play the way they came to play Saturday night and brings it at the line of scrimmage like they did, I don't think they'll lose a Coastal game.
Isn't it amazing that only the Miami quarterback is affected by the money in the NFL draft, right, Gary? Only the Miami quarterback.
No, I'm not.
Every other quarterback in the country, they still throw great passes and good footwork. It's just at Miami. Anyway, listen, I was a big fan of Tyler Van Dyke coming into the season. I thought, and that's why I said to people, I said, I'm not going to enjoy watching Josh Gaddis run the ball constantly, which is what I anticipated and what has happened. I thought, and apparently I was wrong for the second time in my life. I'm not sure what the first time was, but I'm sure there was one and people have pointed out, so now I could say this is the second. The reason I was wrong for the second time in my life saying, listen, this should be a pass-first offense because you have Tyler Van Dyke and you don't know what you have in the offensive line. Well, now it appears apparent that the reverse is true and that Tyler's struggling. Whatever footwork issues he had last game have not been rectified. I talked to a former player who said it's very difficult to fix these issues in season because honestly, they have to do it on their own. Because when you have those, I think they get 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day on the practice field with the coaches, like they're not working with Tyler Van Dyke on his mechanics for 2 hours. They have to get it's constant getting plays in for the next opponent, working on the next opponent, game plans, all that stuff. And then just stressing, obviously, just general mechanics of the team, the general tackling techniques, for instance, those sorts of things on defense, et cetera, and just throwing balls to the receivers. So it's difficult to fix in season. And, it's on our message boards, people are already calling for Jake Garcia, to be the quarterback. And listen, I wrote that, listen, if Tyler has another couple of off games, and let's say if they're not going to lose this week, but let's say they lose to an ACC team and the offense just doesn't look right passing the ball and Tyler's just throwing ducks and missing open guys like he did in this game, those calls are going to get louder and louder. And we've seen it happen across the country, including at Texas A&M, where it could just be 1 or 2 games and coaches say, listen, let's just give the guy a shot. And we both know Jake Garcia is a really, really good quarterback. Now, the other issue here, and Miami coaches will have to deal with this at some point, is right now it doesn't appear Tyler Van Dyke will be leaving after this year. Everyone assumed, okay, he's that good because he has an NFL arm. But no team is going to be drafting him high based on what they're seeing these last 2 games. So, yeah, if Tyler gets it together and is great the rest of the season, which everyone hopes he is, that's the plan. He's gone. Jake Garcia competes to start, etc. But if this continues and he's sort of up and down and it looks like he'll be a mid-round guy, he's going to come back, Jake Garcia is not going to sit behind him for another year. And if coaches don't give Jake Garcia a chance this season, I personally think Jake Garcia will leave. They didn't even work him in with the first team in spring practice, in fall practice, even as a backup for if Tyler got hurt. He didn't get those first team reps. And I know talking to people around Jake that wasn't a great situation for Jake. He really wanted to be able to have that rhythm down, understand, I can work with the first team as needed. It didn't happen. So, this is Tyler Van Dyke's team. They're going to ride with it for sure right now. I'm sure at some point later today, Mario Cristobal will be asked about Tyler Van Dyke, and some intrepid reporter, not named Matt Shodell or Gary Ferman, will say, what about giving Jake Garcia a chance, coach? And if that does happen, which it may, I'm very curious to see, which reporter lands in the hospital.
All right, so we have tons of coverage, obviously, on the website from the weekend and this morning. A lot will be coming your way today. Mario Cristobal will be talking multiple times today. We'll be able to talk about the game with both coordinators. So a ton of stuff will be coming on your way. Make sure you're on the website around midday, and we will bring all that to you. And we will continue the conversation, obviously, through the week on this show, on CaneSport Live, tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, the Lamar Thomas Show, Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. We will continue to have all these conversations, discuss all these issues as we move forward. But that's going to do it for this morning. I know it's a little short and sweet, but I got to go figure out how the heck I'm going to get back to South Florida. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody.